Hello and welcome to episode 2 of Into the Spotlight. I'm Morley.
And I'm Ryan. On this episode, I'm proud to introduce my good friend and the very talented digital artist, video game designer, and musician, Luis Regalado. Luis, hello and welcome to the show.
Hi guys, it's a pleasure to be here and be one of the second episode it seems.
Yeah.
Yes, our second guest. Well, Luis, I really wanted to have you on the show because you have such an interesting background, especially in what you do regarding video game design and your digital art that you make and even the music that you play. Like, I find digital video game designs is an area that a lot of people do, but not everyone knows about. So being able to learn about your experiences and to learn more about this sort of art discipline and how it encompasses so many elements, it's exciting to learn more about it, especially from someone like you.
Thank you. Yeah, but I would say also, I know what you say that because I would consider also film you study media. Film is like a brother, for us in this type of content, like digital content. But the way that we express everything is through interaction. That's the main difference with our storytelling and the film, because with the films you just sit and watch, but with the games the cool part about it is the interaction that you have with the player and the story.
Yeah, no, I get that. And because even I come from more of a traditional film documentary sort of background, I've always loved video games, interactive media, because it allows you to explore the story differently through gameplay, through environmental storytelling, which is something that I'm really a big fan of. So I just love its potential. I just played The Last of Us Part 2 that just came out a couple of weeks ago, and just had a great time with that. It was a blast. It was one of the most cinematic gaming experiences I ever had, so I couldn't praise it enough. And I guess to begin this episode, Luis, I wanted to learn more about some of your personal story coming from El Salvador. How did you start getting into video game designing? And just tell us about your journey to where you are now.
Okay, I would say that everything started in high school. So I was I was in first year of high school. I was wondering, what am I going to do with my life? It's that exact time. And but fortunately, one random day, there were some guys that came into my classroom, and they announced this small academy that was coming up. They were announcing some courses about video games and stuff. And I was like, yeah, this looks very interesting. I started to research on my own about the 3D softwares and everything. Unfortunately, at that time, my computer was not the best one, so I didn't have a good equipment, a good hardware to work with these programs and learn by myself. But I did what I could, and I attended to this academy. Just after I graduated from my high school, I went to this little academy. It was called R-Code. It was called because now, unfortunately, they closed. It's very risky. These type of things, it's quite risky, and so it didn't go well in the end. But the cool thing is that I learned a lot from them, and that was my first step into getting into this world of 3D and video games. Yeah.
Awesome. And what was some of the first things that just drew you to it? What just made you kind of just fall in love with it right away?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, since I was a kid, I always loved playing with Legos, and creating stuff. But Legos, it was something physical. I've seen that Morley, it's like a maker. That's how you call yourself, right?
Yeah.
It's like creating stuff. So it's kind of like that, but I do it digitally, with 3D softwares, and you can almost create anything. You're not constrained about the materials and stuff. It's just whatever you can imagine, you can create it. So that's what makes me fall in love into 3D art and all this crazy stuff.
Have you read Ready Player One?
No, I've just watched the movie.
Oh, the movie's garbage compared to the book. I feel like the book is it's such an expansive world building and very in depth, and they really touch on that I feel more in the book than in the movie, of like the possibilities of being able to create this immersive world. It's funny because like everything I do involves like bringing something into the physical world. Like that's the end product. Like I do some 3D modeling, and I just like got a 3D printer, so I'm taking 3D models, but still it's the end product is making something physical out of it. And I have very little experience just like creating something that's purely a digital world.
Well, by the way, yeah, that the 3D printing is such another world that I would like to get into someday. How is the process so far for you, Morley?
It's cool. Like it feels like magic. It's so cool to be able to like model something and like measure a part and then have something fit around it. I feel like, because like as a young kid I wanted to be an inventor, and now I feel like I have like a tool that can really enable me to do a lot of inventing, because I've like, one of the big annoyances with making stuff is like, if you need something really specific, like a specific part, and trying to like cobble things together, like you take apart an old camera, or you're like, I don't know, you're just taking something from here and something from there, but being able to like create it exactly is very empowering feeling. I mean, I'm just dipping my toes in the water, so it feels like a whole new world.
Nice.
Yeah,
you should teach me sometime.
Well, I mean, I guess that leads into something I was wondering, in that like, so in creating these digital worlds, like you're sculpting in digital space, does physical sculpting, like with clay or anything, does that have any part in your process, or is it almost entirely kind of in the computer?
Okay, so in this academy that I told you, Arco, they kind of taught us the physical clay sculpture first. I learned some of it. I was not the best, but it helped me like understand more about the form, shapes, and how to feel the material when you are sculpting it. But I'm sorry. But then I just like when we do these things in 3D, it's just software.
Right.
We use certain tools, like for instance, I have this little tablet here. It helps you sculpt better, because it has like some pressure when you go over the strokes, and it makes it more precise. Because if you do it with the mouse, oh my god. No,
yeah, imagine you get a little carpal tunnel ramping up after a while.
yes.
And I've had that like in like photo editing and making thumbnails and stuff, and I'm just trying to like trace something, and I'm like, oh, my hand's like so tight. And yeah, I imagine at a certain point you need the kind of stylus to keep it sustainable and not burn out.
Yeah, and it's more fun, I would say, that way.
What are some of like the biggest challenges that are unique to digital designs or video game design that most people wouldn't really know about?
Damn it. Oh.
Like what? Like was it like animating like a character, or is it like an environment? Because I remember last year you were working on something. I don't know if it was like for 48 hours straight or for a week straight.
Oh,
remember that? It was like Ubisoft Next, I think. Was it for that, or was it for something else?
Well, there are a couple of things. So, first of all, there's something called game jams. Those are events that last for 48 hours. I've participated in 2 so far here in Toronto. They are called global game jams, and it's just you sit in a room. Well, you don't have to sit in the room with your team, but it's preferable. And they give you a topic, and you have 48 hours to make it a video game, something playable. And yeah, I've got 2 years doing that. And then the other one, it's the Ubisoft Next. Actually, that thing, they give you 4 months to make a scene,
Okay.
So yeah, it's a very challenging process for that one, because you are on your own, There's no teams. You have to do it all yourself, from the planning, the concepting, all the producing all the models, and then bring them to the game engine so that they can be lit and render in real time. you don't necessarily need to play in those levels, but what you need to do is just to get a camera and like do some pans, and that's it. They just want to see a level.
Awesome.
So is the presentation for that like the judges, are they walking around your environment, or are you
No.
showing it to them?
It's you create a video out of that. Like that's what they want. They want
Gotcha.
to see a video, like a cinematic video of the environment, and
Okay.
that's what you need to do. It's a very challenging process, yes.
And building from that, when you're creating, what are some of your favorite games or designs that you look to for inspiration? How does that impact your creative process and the work that you do?
I will say that depends on the project that I'm working on. But
Okay.
usually, well, my favorite games, I would say it's all the Legend of Zelda saga. There's also a poster just behind me.
I like that.
Yeah, that's been always one of my favorite video game sagas.
Why is that your favorite, particular in that saga?
No. This is from Skyward Sword. It's just a beautiful artwork, you know. That's why I got it here in my wall. But man, just exploring. It's not open worlds. Well, every other game from Zelda is like that, except for the last one, Breath of the Wild, which I haven't played yet, but I want to someday. But yeah, no, they are like puzzles. They have puzzles, and you have to explore, and it's such a cool game, an adventure game, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Such a cool adventure game.
I remember like we didn't have, there's a period of my childhood where like we didn't have video games at home, and then at a certain point like my parents caved. Like I'm one of four and I'm the youngest, so I kind of got like the most lax rules, right? And so when my brother turned, I don't know, 16 or something, we got an Xbox, and the first game he got for the Xbox was the original Halo. I remember playing Halo and be like, oh my god, you can see the butterflies, you can see the plants. It was so amazing. Like I feel like for me that was the first game I saw where you were really noticing the details. And it's funny looking at it now and you're like, I can see all the triangles. Like
It's all just polygons and pixels.
Yeah, it just did. I think I never played a game before that where they did have like the butterflies flying by, and it felt like very immersive in the environment.
I know. Also, actually, that's funny because one of my first games that I ever played was Wolfenstein. But the original, the one from the 80s.
Oh my
or
gosh.
90s. Yeah, that's funny. I was maybe like 6 years old, but I thought that was so realistic. Like all the enemies, they looked so intimidating for me, and wow. But now that I look at these days, it's like, wow, it's just like 16 bits. But I thought it was so real, you know. And then yeah, it kept getting better with Zelda and all those stuff, and Halo as well. I remember it was such a magical experience, as you said.
So like yeah, the first video game I ever played was Sonic, and playing that was just like, even like you mentioned 16 bits, just a side scroller. Like today, most people wouldn't think there's anything special about it, but I noticed that these old games, like you mentioned, like Wolfenstein, Halo, they all retained a certain charm to them that makes them replayable, and like they're still fun even to this day. They're almost timeless in this way, even though the graphics themselves may have aged.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know. I think it's maybe because of the way that they also like how do you call this? I forgot the word.
Was it in Espanol? We could try translate.
Yeah. It's like innovate. That's the word. When they innovated that.
Okay.
For instance, in Sonic. Well, no, that was not the first one. Maybe it was Mario for the side scrollers, but it always brought something new. You know, like new mechanics. Sonic was like for the speed and stuff. Yeah. And Wolfenstein was the first shooter. You know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that and Doom, and then that's just carried on to now through the Call of Duties and the Battlefields and all those like that. And now, like the next frontier, I guess, is like virtual reality.
Oh yeah.
And like being able to really immerse players in those worlds. Like I don't know if you saw the new Half-Life game that came out. It's like the real first full game that's in virtual reality.
Wow, no, I haven't seen that.
Oh yeah, I watched a playthrough. It looks really, really cool. But is like working with a virtual reality or designing virtual reality games? Is that something that interests you? And where do you think that new frontier could go for gaming?
Well, at this moment of time, I think that the hardware is kind of constraining us to certain type of games if we try to do virtual reality. And I mean, I will be completely into that if I had the VR headsets, because you actually need to have them in order to create something for VR.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
one
Yeah.
of the problems. So yeah, if I invest in buying one of those, then I'll be completely into that.
Yeah, that's interesting. I guess most VR, like I've yet to play a VR game, but I guess most of them I've seen are kind of like small puzzle games or something. They're not full on. As far as I know, there's not a lot of like open world,
Yeah,
long campaign style games.
true. The thing is, I so far at this time, it's like you can. I don't know how to say it, but like the hardware doesn't let you have very high frame rates, so people get dizziness.
Yeah, and I guess you only want to play a game for like the duration of a short puzzle game.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard because like I used to use those for like interactive media projects at the museum I used to work at in my hometown, like interactive, the videos and the sort. But after a few minutes, it gets very hot on your face, and you need to take a break from it. It's not something where you can go 6 hours straight, and we're not at Ready Player One level yet. We're not there yet.
Well, I mean, I've talked about this with some friends, like it kind of, as we're touching on, VR seems very like it's not where it could eventually be. But I wonder if like it will ever get to that point, like if it is the natural conclusion of gaming, or if it's kind of like a dead end. I don't know. Part of me like it seems like it's been talked about for a while, but it's not really. I don't know. But you do mention that Half-Life is getting to that point, so maybe we are on that bridge of renaissance.
Who knows? Like some people think it's really overrated. We just don't know yet. But I don't know. Like it's either overrated or VR still in like the TV 1950s bunny ear stage, and they still have to develop and still have a ways to go yet. But who knows? It's exciting, and we'll see what happens to it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I definitely have to check that out, man. I'm gonna look it after this. Okay. Sorry.
So I was curious, like, you're a 3D artist, and like you do a lot of environment creation, but it sounds like you also are very interested in like creating games themselves. So are those? Do you kind of prefer one over the other, just like the creating the art itself, or would you ever be interested in like in your mind you create a whole storyline of a game and think like I would like to bring this game into reality, or is it more about the visual art to you?
Yeah, that's a very hard question for me because I would say I prefer more just creating the art itself rather than creating the game, because like when you have to create a game, you have to know a lot about all the aspects. It's not just about art. You have
like
to
the
know
pacing and the acting.
also about storytelling and programming, which is a complete different world. So it will be very hard, but I prefer to stay more into the art side. Just create cool looking things for games. Yeah. Or
that
movies.
makes sense.
Yeah. And just going off that question, do you enjoy designing characters or environments and levels more? And is there a strong preference between the two? And what are some of the pros and cons for each one?
That's also a very good question. I would say that at this point, if you see my portfolio, you'll see way more characters than environments. And yeah, I actually enjoy doing more characters than environments. But both have their technical difficulties, Like creating an environment, you have to think about what's gonna sell the idea of the environment you want to create, what story you want to create for that thing. You have to think a lot about that. Like it becomes a character. The environment becomes a character.
Like in BioShock.
Yeah, pretty much. The city becomes a character,
Yeah.
Yeah, but when you're creating characters, well, yeah, it's you have to know different type of stuff like anatomy if you are going for something realistic, or well, the stylized. You need to be a good illustrator. um, I've never done those illustrations before, but there's some people that are good. So for the previous projects that I worked, I have had the luck that the illustrators gave me some cool looking designs, because I wouldn't have been able to do that on my own.
Like design the actual character.
Yeah. I just made it in 3D and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
And what are some of those projects that you've worked on?
Well, these projects are from the most recent ones are from these guys. They are postgraduate students from Georgetown. It's called Post Boardroom Games, and I've worked in two of their games. So the first one is called Save the Date. It's well, I cannot tell you a lot about the game because it's not released yet.
Sure.
So yeah, I'm just gonna tell you that it's about temporal mechanic, and it's a 3D platformer with some environmental puzzles. I think I can get you excited with that, Ryan.
Yeah, sure. No, I'm hooked. I already pre-ordered.
So yeah, the game is still in development, and also I worked for another project for these guys called Third Devil. It's like you're a super billion girl that's destroying everything. Well, I cannot say more, but that's the only thing I can say. And yeah, so these games are coming soon. I think by the end of the summer. So you'll be hearing more about that.
Oh, that's exciting.
So in both of those projects, you were taking someone's concept art and then turning that into like a 3D model, 3D rendering, right?
Yes, pretty much.
Is that like a difficult process? Like, maybe they come back to you and say, like, I've dealt with this, like, if you're dealing with clients, say, and they come back to you and say, like, oh, it's not really what I was thinking, and they maybe can't articulate it very well. Yeah. Do you have any of those sorts of experiences when you're dealing with someone else's concept?
It depends. So if they gave me enough of the drawings, it's not a big problem. It's just, yeah, you need to give me a front pose, side view, and it would be ideal if I have a 3/4 view, With that, it's enough. And it will just take me some time to get it to that level and also give it some of my style. Because sometimes when you do some 3D stuff, you cannot completely copy the drawings, You have to see if it works or not. And,
yeah. Like I'd imagine someone might have drawn it in 2D and not thought about, like, I don't know, how the pot belly looks with the big feet or something.
Yeah. And with that temporal mechanic guy, it happened that in the drawings, the limbs were not as big as they should have been. So we had to redo it again. So yeah.
Yeah, it can be intimidating when you have an idea and then all of a sudden you're like, okay, this is what the idea looks like. What do you think? And then I've had that experience before, for sure.
Yeah. Same with me, presenting a cut, and it's like, oh yeah, can you just make this little change? And that little change takes, I don't know, 8 hours to do, but
yeah. Well, this little change took me 1 month to do.
Wow, yeah. That's incredible. And then you were just working on that all by yourself?
Yeah, so the thing is that, well, I did the character in 3D, then I made the textures of the character, and then I break the characters, which is, it's a very long process, and those are three, actually, like if you are in the video game industry, those are 3 roles,
Yeah, so I actually, when I was looking at like your background, I wasn't totally sure what rigging a character actually meant. I think I have an idea, but could you explain it to people that might not have ever heard that term before?
So yeah, rigging is when you have a mesh, a 3D object like the character. At that point, like when you have the model, it's just the model, there's nothing. Like if you want to animate, you have to create a rig. So with that, you create the joints that connect, that articulate the mesh. You have to think of all the pivot points so that it rotates correctly, and Yeah, that's pretty much rigging. It's creating the skeleton of what's gonna drive the mesh. All yeah.
I'm picturing from like Westworld, they have those like 3D printers that are like drawing tendons in the air.
That's
for
kind of, but
I know it's not it at all, but it's just what I'm
no.
picturing.
I mean, I would say that rigging is one of the most technical and least, how do you say, least
difficult.
well, yeah, it's one of the most difficult, but least
artistic.
Yeah, and not everyone wants to do it, you know, because it's so technical.
Well, I feel like you essentially have to be like an expert in anatomy and like physicality.
But also in technical stuff, I mean, like also it blends some of the coding with art, you know. You create tools to help you do certain stuff, and it's if you know what I'm talking about, you'll be like, yeah.
You have to use both sides of your brain in order to get right.
Yeah.
Huh.
But good thing is that I learned to do it in school, so it was very fun to do actually.
Cool.
That's pretty neat. What type of like software and tools that you use to design? Like, because I know each game engine has its own perks. So what are some of the tools that you use for your work?
So for 3D modeling, I use Autodesk Maya. That's just for like normal stuff, you know. I would say that if I want to do a character, I will use just ZBrush, and then I'll bring it back to Maya. But the difference will be like if I want to do a prop or something, I'll use Maya. If I want to do something more organic, like a character, I'll use ZBrush, and then we have another program called Substance Painter for texturing. It's not just Photoshop, you know. In the old school, maybe I'll use Photoshop to create the textures, but
oh wow,
yeah, not now.
No. Like I was amazed when I was playing The Last of Us, just seeing the details and everything from the characters, from like the way they move, just even like the hair down their face, even the textures in the grass. I'm just amazed by the amount of detail that's in the environments and just in the game world as well. Just to me, it just seems unbelievable the amount of work that goes into these games.
Yeah,
they're behemoths.
Yeah. Like to someone like me that knows very little about what goes into it, it almost seems like magic. Like I have like ideas of the components, but making them all work together, it's like, it's very, very, it's a very magical thing.
Yeah. And one of the things that I would say about 3D is that you always will be learning, you know, because this software updates every year, and you're almost like, if you don't look into what's new today or this year, maybe next year you'll have like a lot of things to learn because it's already a lot, you know. Yeah. You have to keep updates most of the time. That's one of the things from 3D.
Is that difficult? Always trying to like stay like ahead of like what's coming, or always trying to be a part of the trends that are happening in gaming?
Yeah, it's difficult, but I would say it's fun. You know, I always enjoy learning something new about 3D. And for instance, just today, I finished learning a new software. It's called Houdini. That thing is, you're god with that software, you know. Like all my work so far has been just like character modeling, texturing, rigging, and all that stuff. It's just normal. But now with Houdini, I've been getting into some visual effects, some simulations of smoke. That is just something new, you know. But it's cool to learn, you know.
I used to watch. Do you know the YouTube channel Corridor Digital or Freddie Wong? Those guys?
No.
When I was like a teenager, there was one of like my favorite YouTube channels, and they do a lot of like fun, playful. Like I think they're all like very trained in VFX and 3D modeling and everything else, but they make a lot of like fun, ridiculous videos about like what if we were running through this alley and time froze and all these bad guys came up on us and we could stop time and like take the guns out of their hands, turn them into a handstand, and do all these other things.
Wow.
But it was always very fun watching all the tools they would use to do this.
Oh wow. So they show it. It's like a tutorial.
Well, they do kind of both. They pull back the kimono a lot, as some people say, and like show the process and show you how they did it. But like I was saying, like even with all they show to me, it's like I have zero training in like VFX and smoke generation and stuff. I went through a phase when I was a young teen of like trying to make like a flashbang effect and lighting a scene, but I'm like, oh, this just takes so long trying to do this in Photoshop. This is not for me.
I see.
Didn't have the tools.
Nice.
Yeah. To me, it was like Flash Player, and that was it. Fun to use that software, but that's pretty much as far as it went for me.
But now that doesn't exist anymore, right? Flash is gone.
December 2020, that's when Google's getting rid of it.
Oh
wow. So no more like addictinggames.com?
Yeah, I know. Like, I don't know.
That's such
like,
a big part of my childhood.
I know. It's like, talk about, it's just traumatic. I guess the coronavirus got it. Who knew?
Yeah.
Or everyone getting annoyed at like asking your browser to enable Flash.
Yeah,
like,
basically.
No more.
Oh my gosh. So I was wondering, Luis, if you had the choice, what would be your dream game to make or to work on? What type of game would that be? Would it be an RPG, action adventure, strategy? What would be your dream game to work on?
Wow. Well, for me, it will be something like a Star Wars Battlefront, you know? I've always been a Star Wars fan, and like, yeah, I think that when I was starting out with Arcode, they released the first Battlefront, and I was like, wow, this is amazing.
Was that on PlayStation, the first one?
Like the originals on PlayStation, yeah. It's like 2004. I remember it because I got for that Christmas. It was the best Christmas ever, as you could tell.
Yeah.
Actually, I think I played that.
Yeah, I always wanted to play that though when I was a child, but the recent one that they released, it was supposed to be 3 or
the EA one, Battlefield 2, I think.
Yeah, that one. I mean, when I was just starting out with Arcode, they released that game, and I was so impressed. So yeah, it will be anything related to Star Wars. It doesn't matter if it's an RPG, a first person, a third person. I'll be excited to work in that, you know?
Yeah. I always loved playing Star Wars games from the time I was a kid even till now, because I find that it just gives you such a different way of experiencing that world. Like even the films, they present to you this amazing imaginary landscape. But one thing I love about Star Wars video games is that it gives you the opportunity to actually just role play within that. And that is so much fun. I don't know if you saw there was that new Jedi game that came out last November.
Oh, yeah.
I spent an ungodly amount of hours on that during the quarantine. So, but it's just, I just love how it can just expand universes and like media properties even further than what we can see in film and television. That's one thing I love about gaming. It just takes the imagination and just runs away with it.
Yeah, and actually, I remember recently Industrial Light and Magic. Those are the guys that do the visual effects for Star Wars. They released
every movie. Yeah,
they released like a virtual reality demo that you're like with a lightsaber and doing some cool stuff. Man, if that's the future, the virtual reality, wow, that'll be so impressive, because that was like my dream as a child, playing with a lightsaber and doing stuff. Yeah.
I'm still waiting for lightsabers to be a reality. Never mind virtual.
It's funny, just like when you're talking about like video games making worlds expand. Like I think there's a couple fantasy universes that are like massive. There's Star Wars, there's Lord of the Rings, and Harry Potter. Maybe Star Trek, but I've never gotten into Star Trek. But I feel like those 3 fantasy worlds, at least in the last like 20, 30 years, have almost taken on a life of their own. And like Eden and we're rereading Harry Potter together right now, which is really fun because we both read them as kids. And it was a big part of our childhood, but we've never like experienced it together. And I was realizing as we were reading it, like Peeves, who is the poltergeist ghost in the books, never makes an appearance in the movies. But I still have an image of my head of what he looks like, because one of the like early Harry Potter PC video games shows what they have Peeves as a character, and they just make up what he looks like. And just from that, like I have this, the universe has kind of expanded in my head. Because when you're reading a book, it's like the movies are kind of picturing the characters as like Daniel Radcliffe and Emma Watson and everything else. And it really is amazing how like the game can expand even more.
Yeah. It's a shame that I never played any of those Star Wars. I mean, Harry Potter film. Harry Potter games. I knew.
Oh, they weren't that good. They're pretty garbage, but
Mm.
it definitely like stuck in my head.
Yeah, the first couple were not too bad, and then it kind of went, as it went on.
But I mean, if playing them as a child, I think that would have been really cool. You know, like
Yeah.
anything is so good when you're a child. So
Yeah,
impressive.
no, that's a good point. I mean, and I think it like it played on my imagination a ton as we were playing, even though it was like very blocky graphics and corny voice acting and everything else.
But it's amazing that that imagery from that game is now what you associate with kind of like the larger Harry Potter world.
Yeah.
Even though it's removed from the films and from Daniel Radcliffe and everyone else, it's just you just see that imagery as part of it now. That's one thing that's very powerful about it.
Yeah, video games can impact you in a very good way.
Sorry, I'm just like now I'm like in the back of, I'm like thinking through the games I played as a kid and like how much I visualized them as a world. I'm just reminiscing silently.
We're all on a massive nostalgia trip right now.
One of my favorite games as a young kid was this very simple computer platform game called The Incredible Machine. Did you guys ever play that?
No.
I don't know. There was thousands of random PC games in like, I don't know, 2003. And it was just basically like, it was a puzzle game, and you played an inventor, and you'd put together different parts to make like a Rube Goldberg machine. Like you'd have like a cat slide down a ramp that would land in a basketball hoop that would scare a mouse, and the mouse would run. And it had like a sandbox mode as well. And me and my sister would spend just like hours messing around with it. It was so much fun. I loved those sandbox games as a kid, like Halo Forge as well. Those just were where you could just do anything. I feel like as a young imaginative kid, those games are really, really good.
Like Grand Theft Auto. Just
exactly.
People. Yeah, man.
Grand Theft Auto for me, like as I started university, was a great kind of like escape from stress because I feel like I could just go into this other world and do anything.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Because it does feel so immersive.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think I've ever played an open world game that felt like there was as many spots where you can go.
Yeah.
Maybe Skyrim, but
yeah, Skyrim. But I remember as a child, I used to play a lot with Grand Theft Auto and putting all the cheat codes and just doing whatever I wanted, you know.
Yeah.
Like
you're just flying around like with the jetpack and everything.
Yeah. That was so cool. Doing stuff that in real life will be impossible to do, and I would never do, you know.
Yeah.
Exactly. I noticed that that this year is the year we're gonna have new video game consoles coming out. We're gonna get the PlayStation 5, the new Xbox, and so far, like in terms of like the graphics that these new consoles can do, is just really breathtaking. Are you excited for like this next generation and where it might lead to?
Wow, yeah. And I've also seen some of the demos for the new Unreal Engine. So it's gonna be Unreal Engine 5, and oh my god, like even the technical stuff that you can do in the software seems so unreal. Unintended. But yeah, like games like Cyberpunk 2077, I'm looking forward for that one, you know. Looks very cool with all the how do you call it? Cyberpunk style, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, it looks like it's gonna be like the biggest sci-fi game ever. Plus, it has Keanu Reeves in it, so like, how can you say no to it?
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool. So one thing I was kind of curious about is like one thing we haven't really touched on yet, Luis, is you also play a lot of music.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like a whole nother creative side of you. So do you feel like your music and your like 3D art are kind of like two separate things, or they are complementary in one way? Like how do those relate to one another, do you think?
No, I would say they are both completely different things, and like, well, I made them relate this last game jam that I participated in January, I think. So I was with my team and they were like, man, we need sounds and music for the game, and I was like, yo, I play guitar, so I'm gonna make the music for this video game. And so at that time I met my friend Godlifer. He's been helping me out with creating music. You know, he has a studio now, home studio. So at that time was very convenient. You know, I just brought my guitar and we started to jam. And then he also has like some keyboards. He created a beat. He helped me with the mastering and mixing for the sounds of the game. We also recorded some steps and just random noises for the game. And
Some Foley.
hmm?
Some Foley, as
Yeah.
they say in the industry. Cool.
And then yeah, that may be the way that I got them connected, but aside from that, it's just two completely different things for me.
Mhm.
And I would say music is just my hobby, you know.
Yeah. Is it kind of like an escape from like the 3D modeling in a way?
Yeah, like sometimes when I get a little bit stressed, I just grab my guitar and I start to like doodle around, and sometimes I write stuff, and or sometimes I just do covers, you know.
Mhm.
Just sometimes it's for fun. Yeah.
What are some of your favorite musical genres or songs that you like to play?
Oof. So my favorite genre, I'm more into metal, and it's any type of metal, you know, even soft rock and pop rock like the Beatles. So I
Right,
would say
right.
that I like everything from the Beatles to the most underground metal you can ever imagine, you know.
The rave kind.
Yeah. So yeah, it's and but I also like classical music, jazz, some blues. I've never with jazz and blues I never have like a special artist. I just put like random Spotify playlist and that's it. But I don't
Mhm.
have like favorite artists for that genre. But for metal, I would say people like Jason Becker. He's like my most inspirational guitarist ever. You know, because when I was young and learning to play the guitar, he was such an inspiration because he started his career at 17 years old. He got to a level where no one got at that time. He was in the 80s and he was playing like a guitar god, but unfortunately, he suffered a disease called ALS.
Oh,
I don't
no.
know if you know that
Yeah,
thing.
that's rough.
So yeah, he got completely paralyzed, unfortunately, and that kind of stopped his career. But the cool thing is that he kept creating music. You know, he was getting paralyzed, but his dad found a way to get like something device to for him to control a mouse, and he composed an album in 9 years. You know, but still,
Wow,
it's such
that's
a
incredible.
yeah,
I've never heard of. I'm reading about him now. I've never heard of him. It sounds like he has a really interesting story.
yeah.
And he's still making music, right?
Yeah, and he's still alive. They told him like he was about to die in less than 5 years when he got the disease. You know, but he's like 50 or I think he's 50 now. But yeah, he's always been my inspiration, you know.
That's really conquering adversity. That's incredible.
Mm-hmm. It's like inspiration.
Because you're really, really talented on the guitar. I know because I've seen you play firsthand when we were doing those music videos for you last year.
Yes,
You got some
actually.
shredding skills.
Yes, actually, that video is gonna get released soon. I just need to edit it. You know, it's 9 minutes. The song is 9 minutes long. It takes a while to
I
go
know.
into
And
the
we were
footage.
recording. We were recording. I don't know. I think it was like around midnight till like 2 a.m. I'm surprised like security didn't come tell us to stop, but it's okay. It was a great experience. I can't wait to work on the next one. But yeah, you play the guitar so well. Have you ever considered playing in a band or just anything like that as a hobby?
Yeah, that's the thing. So unfortunately, I've never met any drummer, you know.
Really?
And I've always been with friends that play guitar. We kind of have bands, but they were not really bands because we never created anything. We were just doing covers. But now, as I told you, my friend Godlifer has helped me with making some music. You know, like we joined forces and we are composing a lot in our free time. He released an EP. I think it was in May or something like that. it was fun, you know. I think I composed that. The funny thing is that I composed that EP with him when I was still at school. That was like in winter. I was very busy, but still I could make it. Now we have more time, and we already did like 10 songs in less than 1 month, you know.
Oh, nice.
So yeah.
That's cool.
So, yeah.
I went through one summer. I was like, I'm gonna learn guitar this summer, because I've always played stationary or loud instruments like piano and trumpet, and neither of those are very good for an apartment because you either can't fit a piano and a trumpet, and I don't really. Sorry, you can't fit a piano in an apartment, and I just don't like playing keyboard the same way, and trumpets are very loud, and so I was like, oh, it'd be so nice to play guitar because you can, like you said, you can just pick it up, sit at your desk, tootle around, and it's a nice casual instrument.
Yeah, and actually, you know what's funny? It's just beside my desk right now.
Yeah,
there it is. What type of guitar is that, Luis?
Huh?
What type of guitar is that?
Sorry,
what type of guitar?
Oh, this is an electric guitar. Yeah. I prefer using more the electric because you can use headphones. You know, you can plug it into an amplifier and then you're on your own. That's the best instrument. You know, for that reason, in an apartment.
Yeah, no, for sure. And like it's like to circle back around to like making games, it's like you can make it sound like whatever you want, and then you have this, you're like in this own little world.
Yes.
You're not constrained by like the acoustics of the room you're in or anything. Cool.
Well, a funny thing is that when I record guitar, I never use the microphones or any stuff like that. I directly record into the computer, so that makes it easier, you know. With the video that I did with Ryan, that I don't know if you remember, Ryan, you were asking me, do you need microphones and stuff? And I was like, no, man, don't worry. I have my own setup here, so we just need the cameras.
Yeah, well, that's good because I had no idea at the time. I was trying to figure out, I was like, oh my gosh, how are we going to soundproof like one of these little rooms and residence? Like, how are we not going to like wake up like 20 floors of people? But anyway, then you showed me that sub. It's just like, oh, that's easy.
Yeah, it's just I connected to audio card for how do you call interface, and it's like an audio interface, and that's it.
Yeah. I'm excited to see it because like music videos are, I feel like, are such a cool. They're such an interesting creative medium because you can go literally any direction with them. I'm always interested when I love a song and I really feel a strong connection to the band. If they have a music video, like what is it going to be? Because sometimes it's like, oh, that's not what I've expected at all, and sometimes it like makes you feel even a stronger connection to them. Can I get any preview of when it does come out, what I should expect of this music video?
For the one that Ryan helped me, maybe in 1 month, because I have to go through all the footage. But well, it's just a video cover. And,
yeah, it's like think of it like a live performance. It's a filmed version of that, but we have fancy lights and everything. And Luis, if you need help with that, let me know. We could like do like a Zoom and we can try to figure things out for the edit.
Yeah. But I'm planning for a new video with you, Ryan. It's gonna be very big, so I think for that one it's gonna come out someday in November. That's gonna be a very exciting thing because I bet you haven't seen what I have prepared for you guys. I'm gonna blow your mind.
I'm excited.
You ain't ready.
Yes. I'm excited because like it's one thing I love about just going back to the idea of music videos is that they are the best short films ever because you can experiment with them so much. You're not constrained by like a narrative per se, but you can play with all these different types of visual techniques and really help give an identity to like the band and to the song. They're just so much fun to play with. Like you see music videos, some of them can be the most abstract things out there, or they can be some of the most visually engaging music videos. Like I don't know, there's just so much you can do with them. That's why I want to do more of these, and doing them with people like Luis is just a pleasure.
Yeah, I kind of want to try one. It sounds like a really cool process.
Yeah,
it sounds like it'd be a lot of work in the edit, but I'm up for the challenge.
Yes. Well, you should come help it because like you have the same camera as I do, so like you could just come help us film it.
Oh, double cameraman.
Yeah, there you go. Have a multicam setup.
Yes.
MCM, nice.
But one of the things that maybe so you asked me before about the 3D and music. Now that I think it twice, I was thinking of I'm collaborating with Godlifer, and I was thinking also to implement some of the new things that I'm learning into some music videos. Like just creating some cool renders and visuals. I've been working on some of this stuff. I'm gonna release it soon. But that came because of the past Ubisoft NXT that we did. So we composed a song just for that video. I don't know if you guys watched it.
Yeah, with like the light character.
Yes, that one. Yeah, so that song.
Yeah, it was moving to the music and
Mhm.
little to the percussion. It was really cool.
I liked how it was like so like transparent. It reminded me of like the movie Monster Alien, but somehow you made it 10 times more terrifying because it's transparent and you can see the insides. So that was really cool. But no, that's awesome.
So yeah, we're gonna do something similar to that video.
Cool.
But for the sake of music, and express an idea, not just for a contest thing,
Yeah.
Yeah, you could do it for fun without any of the pressure, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's exciting. Yeah, a good amount of people in my space, like who are making maker videos, as they're called on YouTube, are also musicians, and they do the music for their videos. A big part of my process is finding the music for their videos, but it sounds. I feel like that'd be a little. To do it for every video sounds like a lot of work.
Yeah.
Make the song for every single video. It's cool though. It really lets you like make it perfectly united, because trying to find that song that is exactly the vibe in your head is like, it's almost impossible.
Yeah, I guess that maybe in their creative process, maybe they thought of a song and then they wanted to do something to make something out of that song, or maybe they make something in real, like, how do you say? They get an idea,
like
but
in physical space.
Yeah, and then they think of a song that's related to that,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, just to have the toolkit to be able to unite those things is so cool.
Yeah.
Like, I think a lot of people struggle with having a feeling and not knowing like how to express it.
Yeah.
But like you said, like if you make something in 3D and it's making you think of like being able to then compose the song that goes along with that is very powerful.
Yeah, actually, it was so much fun.
Sweet.
So much fun.
Okay, I think with that we should transition into the next segment of the episode, which is what we are putting in the spotlight this week. So as I was researching Luis's stuff, it's funny. I mean, it's exactly into the conversation we were having. Like, I was just thinking of like, what are some of the most like visually amazing, immersive video games that I've played? So I was kind of going through my mental catalog, and we talked about Halo. We talked about like Grand Theft Auto and BioShock. But one of the games that really sticks out in my experience is Mirror's Edge. Did you guys ever play that?
It's with the Asian girl and roof stopping, right?
Exactly, yeah. So something you guys might not know about me is I was quite into parkour in my teen years.
I'm shocked. Wow.
Yeah, I was as much as one can in semi-suburban New Hampshire. Did a bit in the woods as well, some tree climbing, some doing flips off stumps and stuff. But that game, like, for one, just because like it was like one of the only parkour video games, was super fun. But it is such a beautiful game. It has a very simple color palette. I find, like, so just to give a bit of background, it's a dystopian video game. You're playing a messenger essentially that's carrying messages between like resistance fighters of some sort against this very authoritarian government. And you're in a very clean looking futuristic city, and you're almost exclusively on the rooftops or in office buildings. It's always like very bright and sunny. And so the game is almost entirely like shades of white and sky blue and black and gray. And then there's very bright pops of color that the designers sort of use to guide you around. And then there's this kind of recurring motif of red everywhere. Like, she has these very bright red shoes. And it just is, it's really cool. Like, I really appreciate when people are able to create such an evocative piece of art with a very like limited palette. Like it just comes off as very, very skillful. Like it's not like we were talking before, like there's something to be said for making very, very detailed games, and the graphics in this are great, but at the end of the day they're playing with a very limited color palette, and it's really cool. I loved playing that game, and I don't know how, like I feel like it was pretty popular, but I don't think enough people talked about it as should have.
I remember hearing about when it came out. I never played it myself, but I remember hearing about and seeing it. It looked like such a cool surrealist experience, like you mentioned, with like the color red and being able to parkour over the levels. Like I don't know, it's like one of those games I think that grows in appreciation over time because it's so unique. It stands out so much. Like it knows its place. I think it's a really cool game.
Yeah. Like I don't know, maybe I wouldn't have said those same raving words of praise at the time, but looking back, I'm like, yeah, that was a really, really creative, pretty game. Yeah, so that's my pick for the week. If you can still find it anywhere, I would suggest to play.
I might look into that actually this weekend.
Cool.
So for my spotlight, I also chose a game simply because it deals well with like our guests and with the topics at hand. So the game I chose is called Journey. I don't know if you guys have heard of Journey.
Yeah,
I have. I remember it was like people were like raving about it when it came out, but I never got a chance to play it.
I played it for the first time just like a few months ago, and I was really, really amazed by it. It's a game that came out, I think, in 2012 or so. Mm-hmm. Basically, the simple premise of the game is that like you play as this robed figure in the desert, and you have to work your way up through the desert into the ruins of a lost civilization, climbing to the top of a mountain where there's like a light coming from the peak of the mountain. Now, I know it's not the most exciting premise of any video games, but it's the way it executes its ideas and the way it's able to communicate its story is what makes it so powerful through its visuals, its music, and sound effects. Because I found that this game is so very immersive. It's an adventure game that can evoke a sense of wonder. It can also establish...
Yeah, because you don't really know why you're on this journey at the beginning, right?
There's no context. Kind of dropped into it. Right. It's kind of devoid of context. You're just this robed figure. You don't even look like a person. But as you go, you get to explore a lot of the game's world, and you kind of piece together things happening. But it's subjective for everyone. But it's still like a wonderful experience because it like the game communicates all of its messages and themes without a single word spoken. There's no text. It's all done through gameplay. It's all done through sound effects. It's all done through music. So like, and as you're playing the game, like it's multiplayer. So like another person will join your journey, but you don't see their name. You don't know anything about them. You can't communicate. You just communicate through these like musical chimes that exist in the game's world, which you use to kind of like advance through the game. But as it goes along, like you develop a connection with this person even though you know nothing about them. It's only when you complete the game together is when you see in the credits if their names are revealed. It's just such a cool 2 to 3 hour long experience because just the visuals and the music and the way the levels are designed, it just makes you feel something. Regardless of your background, you can appreciate this game for what it's trying to say and like the imagery and some of the themes that's drawing upon. It's one of my favorite games ever, and it's one of the most relaxing games I've ever done. So if you have a chance to check it out, please go check it out.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I haven't played a game in so long, and this is making me want to get back into it.
Yeah. Oh man, I did like a Call of Duty tournament with some of my other friends, with a few others, like the other nights, and oh man, we did it from like midnight to 3 a.m. and that was it was just a blast. Just a blast.
Nice. Okay, so it's my turn, right?
It is.
Today, for my spotlight, it's gonna be a band from El Salvador called Aspic. Actually, the funny thing about that band is that one of the founders is my brother, and he has a very cool project. This band is progressive metal. Well, the genre is progressive metal, and they have such a complex and rich way of creating melodies, and it's a very unique band. They make you think of like you're in a space journey. And
oh, cool.
Yeah, it's like it gives you like, how can I explain you? It makes you think that you are in flying in space, and It's so good, man. Like you have to listen it for your own. But a funny thing is that their songs are quite long, like 8 minutes long. Like the one we recorded, Ryan.
Oh yes, I
That
remember.
that's the same genre of music, but yeah, they don't use the typical time signatures that most of the music uses, like the 1, 2, 3, 4. They go up to 7 or 13, which is crazy. But they do it in such a way that you don't feel that it's weird. You know, it makes you think that like you it gives you a feeling that you are running out of breath, but in a cool way. You know.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
You know what that reminds me of?
Hmm.
A really cool album that came out maybe 2 years ago, maybe just one. Do you know the Arctic Monkeys? Their album Tranquility Base Hotel and Casino.
No, 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 no.
So it was a little polarizing. Like they have a strong fan base, and some of their fans didn't love it, but it's kind of like a concept rock album
Yeah.
that takes place on this fictional hotel and casino on the moon. And it's really interesting. Like it just made me think of it because you said like the thought of flying through space. And they just through the songs, like I listened to it as I was driving across Canada, so I was doing a lot of daydreaming, and you just kind of picture like if there was this very kind of gaudy, rundown hotel and casino on the moon, what it might be like. And it's just like I don't listen to a lot of concept albums, but it's cool when you do listen to one. It really kind of creates that world in your head.
Yeah. So that's also one of the things that they want to do in their music. These albums are concept and they are based in certain topics of space, and it's so cool, man. Like you have to check it out. And also the singer, it's a female, so not all metal is just screaming, you know. Sometimes you have very beautiful voices like this one. And
this sounds like exactly my type of music. I love hard rock or metal bands with like female vocalists.
Oh,
like
nice.
that is, I'm definitely gonna check them out.
And yeah, they have, I think they started when I left El Salvador, so 3 years now, something like that. They just released an album, I think 2 years ago, something like that.
Can you just say and spell the band name one more time?
So yeah, ASPIC, Aspic. You can find them on Spotify, Instagram. I think in Instagram they are. You can find them as Aspic Official, something like that. Yeah.
Sweet.
Awesome. We're gonna check them out tonight.
All right, great. Well, thank you, Luis, so much for coming on. This was a really cool conversation.
Thanks, Morley. Thanks, Ryan, for having me here.
Thank you for your perspective, and thank you for just having a great chat with us. I'm looking forward to working on more great projects with you, my friend.
Yeah.
It's gonna be fun.
Where can the people find you if they want to see some of your work?
Okay, so most of my stuff's gonna be on Instagram, and my Instagram is l.regalado16, and I'm gonna release the website. Right now it's lffregalado.wixsite.com, but I'm gonna change it to luisregalado.com, something like that. But yeah, also you can find me on YouTube as... Wait a second. I don't know.
Wait, I have it here. I can plug it. Shredder F Regalado.
Oh yeah, Shredder. Wait. Well, but I thought it was LF Regalado 16.
Oh, I guess that's just the channel URL.
Yeah.
No, you're right. It's just I was reading the link.
Sometimes it's weird to tell which one, because they YouTube gives you two accounts. I don't know if it happens to you.
Oh really?
Yeah. So I don't know which one is which.
Okay.
Yeah,
no, when you click on it, it goes to LF Regalado 16. Yeah.
And
cool.
Also, if you guys want to check out the games that I talked about, follow @postmortemgames in Instagram. Those have the characters of the projects that I talked to you about. They're gonna come soon, sometime after this summer, you know. So yeah, @postmortemgames in Instagram, and www.postboredomgames.ca. Postboredom.ca. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, let's blow them up.
Okay, thank you guys.
Yeah, for sure. Ryan, where can the people find you?
So the people can find me at Ry O'Connor on Instagram. So that's ry.oconnor.
Nice. And you can find me newly at Morley Kert. It's no more Yell Around blog. Just this past week, I have rebranded to be just under my name, and that could be a conversation for another episode. But yes, just Morley Kert everywhere.
Yell Around blog is dead. It's only Morley Kert now.
Yeah, it's not dead. It's just.
No, I'm kidding.
It's grown.
It's grown. It's changed. It's evolved. It's part of the process.
Exactly. It's always part of the process. And you can find us collectively at Into the Spotlight podcast or Into the Spotlight. One of the two.
I'm confusing the Twitter and the Instagram now.
Yeah, Twitter is _spotlight. Instagram is
into the Spotlight podcast.
Yeah,
that's the one.
And you don't have to remember all these because I'll link them in the show notes, and you can just click. Easy peasy.
That's it. Thank you everyone for listening. It's a great episode, and we're looking forward to more.
Thanks everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye guys.